All right, so I'll be talking about the business ethics of Brant Swanky from 7280 Home Services. So just a little bit of background, Brant Swanky is the executive and contractor of 7280 Home Services, and he's had this position for 7 years. And 7280 Home Services is a deck maintenance specialist company in my hometown of Evergreen, Colorado, and I got to know him by working with him this past summer. So the first question I asked him was, what other jobs have you had throughout your life besides being the executive of a contracting business? And he said he's had many jobs, including being a salesman for a chemical company, an operations manager of a manufacturing firm, a business development manager of an energy service company, and a salesman for energy services. And he said being a salesman back then really helps him with being a salesman right now with his decking services. And him having a wide diversity of jobs is really encouraging to me because still don't know what I'm going to do with my life, like career wise right now. And I could really see myself having multiple jobs throughout my lifetime, and seeing him have the success that he has after having so many jobs is therefore really encouraging to me. The second question asks, how would you describe ethics in the business world? And he said simply, it's the difference between doing what is right and wrong. And he believes that there are good people and bad people. And I would kind of disagree with him here. I think that we're kind of all on a spectrum between being good and bad. And the definition from my management class of what ethics is that I described to him was a code of moral principles and values that govern the behaviors of a person or group with respect to what is right or wrong. The third question I asked him was, what would good ethics look like from an executive of a contracting business? And he said, doing what you say at the price and quality agreed upon, and that quality can really be an element that can lack sometimes. And I really think communication is key here because in order for the customer to be happy, they need to have a met definition of what good quality is. And the only way for an employee and a customer to have matching definitions of what good quality is through communication. The fourth question I asked him was, what would bad ethics look like from an executive of a contracting business? And he said that bad ethics consists of taking money without doing work, doing bad work when getting paid to do better work, or even stealing from customers. I know contractors are often home alone when working for customers when they're off at work, and therefore stealing can be really tempting. And I think whenever you're a contractor and you're in a house and want to use a bathroom or grab some water, I just think you got to get permission in order for it to be ethical. The fifth question I asked him was, have there been any situations where bosses you have worked for have acted unethically? If so, describe the situation. So he told me a story about how he had a boss who forced him to submit requests for evidence to develop a business plan, and he had to profit $3 million in order for this to be worth it. And he thought this was completely inconceivable and wouldn't be worth it. And this kind of made me ask the question, like, at what point is it ethical for employees to like step up to the managers and call them out when they're trying to make them conduct operations in a business that won't be financially successful? The sixth question that I asked Mr. Swanky was, has there been any situations where customers you have worked for have acted unethically? If so, describe the situation. So he told me a story of back when he worked in the oil field that customers would want him to bring them cash, TV, steak, or even car parts, along with the oil services he was already providing them. And this kind of really confused me because he's just an employee, and I don't know why they would want him bringing them these things. The seventh question I asked him was, has there been situations where employees you have employed have acted unethically? If so, describe the situation. So he said he used to give out company credit cards to his employees, but they ended up filling up the gas in their own cars, ended up buying hotel rooms for girlfriends, and even drugs. And this really made him mad because it was really costing the company unnecessary costs. And I really think managers should check credit card transactions of employees to make sure that they're spending them responsibly and actually for the company too. The eighth question I asked him was, do you think that good ethics in the workplace are important? If so, why? And he said good ethics are critical to financial success in a business, and that an organization is effective when there's a developed trust between the employers and the employees. So this summer, Mr. Swanky told me to go grab $20 from his wallet. And when I went to go do that, I noticed that there was a lot more cash in there that I easily could have taken from him. But I only took the $20 and gave it back to him. And I think he noticed this, and this enabled him to have a trust between us, and then enabled us to have a really successful summer. The ninth question I asked him was, do you think that over your lifetime, workplaces in general have gotten more ethical or less ethical? And he says that there's ethical and non-ethical people everywhere, and this really has been a trend of all history and humanity. And I think that this is the most insightful answer because it really goes back to the fall in the Garden of Eden. Because once this happened, we were all tainted by sin and bound to make non-ethical decisions, while at the same time, we're still all image bearers of God and have the potential to make ethical decisions. And then the last question I asked him was, is there anything else related to business ethics you would like to add? And there was nothing. He was done right there. So to conclude, this really was a great opportunity getting to interview Mr. Swanky about his views on business ethics. Now, I probably won't be an executive of a contracting business when I grow up, but it was really interesting to hear his perspective still, and hopefully I can use his perspective when considering business ethical decisions in my future. And here's my works cited, and thank you very much.